Hello nerds and nerdettes, and welcome back to the channel where we have a new top 10 for you all to enjoy. We are exiting out of the month of March 2025 and entering into April 2025, and here on this channel, when we enter into a new month, that means new releases. So today's video is my top 10 most anticipated releases of April 2025 that you all should be looking out for or saving up for. But before we get into the list, a quick reminder that we do have a channel sponsor, which is organicpricebooks.com. You can use the discount code staynerdy to save yourself $2 on any order, or when ordering 4 or more books, you can use the code staynerdyshipittogether to save yourself 5% on that entire order. Great way to save yourself some money, but the channel also gets a little bit of support. So thank you to anybody that decides to use those codes when ordering from OPB. That also allows you to pre-order, so it's another great resource when pre-ordering some of the titles that we're about to talk about. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this top 10. I'm really excited to get into some of these books, starting with number 10. And coming in at number 10, we do have Avengers Forever, the omnibus. This does have a cover price of $100, a release date of April 8th, 2025, and a page count of 592 pages. So a little bit on the smaller side. We typically see these omnibuses in the thousands these days. So it's nice that we have a little humble 592 page omni. So essentially what this is the later half of Jason Aaron's Avengers run. Now, if you have not read Jason Aaron's run, I definitely implore you to do so. I love Jason Aaron's Avengers run. I think he changes the status quo and the roster up quite a bit and has tons of fun with those characters. But what this also is a sequel of sorts to Jason Aaron's Heroes Reborn little multiversal event that also got an omnibus somewhat recently. That omnibus directly leads into what's contained in this omnibus. And honestly, all of Jason Aaron's Avengers run is what leads up to this little crossover, multiversal, Avengers-focused event. And this is the climax of Jason Aaron's Avengers run. And like I said, his run is really good. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, the only reason that it is in the number 10 spot so low on my list is because I'm not too fond of the way that Marvel is collecting and cherry picking parts of Jason Aaron's Avengers run. I wish they would just give us a Avengers by Jason Aaron omnibus set and call it a day, rather than, cherry picking Heroes Reborn and now Avengers Forever. I don't quite get it, and I feel like at some point the contents of this Omni is going to double dip with the inevitable, which I'm sure we'll get at some point, Avengers by Jason Aaron omnibuses. So it is what it is. It's still a phenomenal story. It's a multiversal story, has a lot to do with the Avengers, their impact on the multiverse, the universe, the Marvel universe as a whole. You get to see the Avengers BC, prehistoric versions of Thor, Ghost Rider, Black Panther, Phoenix, just to name a few. So lots of fun stuff here. And I do recommend Jason Aaron's run as a whole. Even if you skip out on this omnibus, at least read his run, because it is a lot of fun. And I think the main reason this is being collected in an omnibus is because it was originally being collected in the OHC format, which Marvel did away with, and this is now finishing the back end of Jason Aaron's run, which don't exactly love that either. Happy for the OHC people, but I don't quite get it. But still, phenomenal story here. Definitely recommend Jason Aaron's run. Read it digitally or in trade paperback. Omnibus is not the best format for that right now, but I still recommend his run as a whole, and definitely this little event because it is a lot of fun. And coming in at number 9 is the All-In Saga, but I'm going to call it the DC All-In Saga. This does have a cover price of $19.99, a release date of April 29th, 2025, and a page count of 200 pages. Essentially what this is a culmination, a collection of the build-up and the enter into the new era of DC, which is the All-In Initiative. and it is phenomenal. We are in a really, really good era of DC if you're not reading in singles or collecting trades or anything like that. And I really enjoy this ushering in of this new age. I think this All-In saga is going to fill in a lot of the gaps of why DC is in this new initiative, this new era. It fills in the gaps of why the Absolute Universe is a thing, why Justice League Unlimited is a thing. You get a lot of little nuggets of story and details that add a lot of context to a lot of the ongoing titles that are out and being clamored over and praised. So I do recommend this. I want this in the collection for that exact reason. It really is a little nugget of detail that I think adds a lot of context. And it's also phenomenally well written by obviously Mark Waid, who is on top of DC right now. And then you have some phenomenal art by Dan Mora. You get some stuff from like Chip Zdarsky and whatnot in here. So really, really great stuff. Highly, highly recommend it, especially if you're going into this new era, new age of DC Comics. And at number 8, we have a Star Wars omnibus. Always a good day when we get some Star Wars content. We do have Star Wars Crimson Reign, the omnibus. This does have a cover price of $100, a release date of April 29th, 2025, and a page count of 872 pages. So this is a sequel of sorts, or at least a continuation regarding the characters to the Han Solo movie, Solo, to War of the Bounty Hunters. You get some fan favorite characters in here, such as Dr. Aphra. But essentially what you have is a Star Wars event, very similar to that of War of the Bounty Hunters, but this is yet another event that has to do with all of the characters that you've been reading about during the Kieran Gillen Star Wars run, and that build up to what is taking place, the characters there, the character of Quira, I think is how you pronounce her name, who was played by Emily Clark in Han Solo. If you want to find out more about that character, what her connections are to the dark side of the Force, the Empire, what her role is to play, is there maybe another treacherous secret society that is among the stars of Star Wars? This is what you want to read. And you're going to obviously get tons of familiar faces, fan favorite characters, even more lore nuggets and lore aspects of the Star Wars world and storyline. And then on top of that, this is all canon. This is canon Star Wars. This is not a Legends omnibus. This is literally what is taking place, why Emily Clark's character was introduced in Han Solo, and where it kind of went from there as years passed, and Han Solo obviously got older, since this takes place a great deal after that film. This is what you want to read, and it is phenomenal. War of the Bounty Hunters, I didn't love as much. I'm not a huge bounty hunter fan when it comes to like Star Wars and that side of at least the galaxy or the cosmos that Star Wars exists in. But Crimson Reign feels different, feels fresh, feels a lot different from typical Star Wars stories. So definitely give it a try if you haven't already. Maybe read a trade before the omnibus, but it's definitely in my top 10. And I do recommend it to people that want more Star Wars events. And at number 7, we do have a reprint, which is Punisher by Rick Remender, the omnibus. We do have a cover price of $100, a release date of April 22nd, 2025, and a page count of 760 pages. Now, this is Rick Remender doing Punisher, a very human and grounded type of character, which I think Rick Remender's writing style lends to beautifully. But who I'm going to recommend this to the most is people that maybe read Punisher by Garth Ennis, Punisher by Jason Aaron, and felt it was way too grounded, way too brutal, way too just dark. This is what you want to read if you want a differing of tone. Now, that's not to say that there's not tons of violence in here. It is obviously still a Punisher book. It's still a Punisher run. Rick Remender is not your typical creator that shies away from violence or anything, so expect that in this specific run, in this omnibus. But what you do get in here is Rick Remender having fun with the character of Frank Castle, the Punisher. And where you see that most evident is during the Frankencastle portion of Rick Remender's run, where you get to see something happen to Frank Castle, being very vague there on purpose, and you get to see him essentially take the form of a Frankenstein-like monster, and how he gets there and why he gets there, you can read and find out, but it is as wacky and zany as it sounds. But it is so much fun. It is such a differing tone and vibe applied to that of Punisher, very similar to what we've seen in other runs and other characters, where there's a tone shift and a tone switch, and it just performs fun. It feels fresh, and that's what you get here, and that's why I recommend it, and that's exactly why it's at number 7. So let's go ahead and jump into number 6. And at number 6, we do have Dark Knights of Steel getting a deluxe edition. We do have a cover price of $49.99. That's pretty steep for a deluxe edition, but still worth it. And then we do have a release date of April 22nd, 2025, and a page count of 408 pages. Now, this title could easily be in my top 3 of this list, because it is that good. That's how good Dark Knights of Steel is, and it could very easily make it into my top 3, but I do have volumes 1 and 2 of the hardcovers already, so this would be a little bit of a double dip for me. But even with that being said, it still made it on to the top 10. This is essentially the DC Universe being painted with a Game of Thrones paintbrush. You're going to have medieval Game of Thrones-like versions of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Martian Manhunter, characters that we all know and love, but get completely shifted and changed in this new setting, and it is so good. This is Tom Taylor, and Tom Taylor is a master of Elseworld stories. I think that is the peak as far as Elseworld stories go, is Tom Taylor. He just knows how to have fun with these characters and make them nothing like the characters that we've been reading for decades now. And you get exactly that in here, and it is so much fun. The way he changes characters and plays with characters. You got, Superman having a completely brand new origin specific to this Elseworld, and the art is also phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, by Yasmin Putri. Hopefully I'm not butchering that too bad. Phenomenal art here, so the deluxe edition is going to pay in dividends when it comes to the paneling and just the layouts and everything when it comes to the artwork. So definitely read this. I personally don't care what format you read it in, because it is that good. Just please read it. But this deluxe edition, definitely worth it. Phenomenal title here, and if you haven't read it, what are you doing? You gotta read it, because it is that good. And kicking off the top 5, we do have Secret War, no longer an OHC. It's getting an official omnibus. We do have a cover price of $75, a release date of April 1st, 2025, and a page count of 376 pages. So it is on the smaller side. This is going to be a small omnibus. Now, this Secret War event, which is kind of what it feels like, has nothing to do with Jim Shooter's Secret Wars, has nothing to do with Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars. This is Brian Michael Bendis telling a story that's full of treachery and backstabbing and reconnaissance, and it mainly focuses on that of Nick Fury, and has a lot to do with Latveria, and has a lot to do with the debts that characters are owed to him and the files that he keeps on these characters. And there is tons of secrets revealed throughout this entire story. This is going to be the first appearance of Quake in here. This is going to be the first appearance of the Secret War suits that I don't even know if we've ever seen again, other than in a handful of video games that I know of, that a lot of these characters wear. Their Secret War espionage stealth style of suits, which are beautifully drawn and illustrated. This entire little event and storyline is beautifully illustrated by Gabriel Delato, which is almost a painted like realistic version of comic books. I mean, there is just so much momentum and so much realism to the paneling, the art, the story here. It feels very much like superheroes in real life. And this was the ushering in of Bendis's name being applied to Marvel and being applied to a Avengers-like team. This is before Bendis on New Avengers, Avengers Disassembled. This is before Ultimate Spider-Man. This is like the initiation of Bendis touching and playing with these Marvel characters. And it is absolutely phenomenal. I only have this collected in single issues, so it's about time that I get this omnibus and get it into the collection. And I definitely recommend reading it. This is a sleeper event that no one talks about, and I don't understand why, because it is tons of fun and there is tons of repercussions following this storyline. And at number 4, we do have Jupiter's Legacy, the Library Edition, Volume 1. We do have a cover price of $49.99, a release date of April 22nd, 2025, and a page count of 312 pages. I have made it very known on this channel at this point that I love this format. This is a massive book. These are absolute, if not bigger than DC Absolute size. They are designed to the T, from ribbons to dust jackets to gilded pages. These are phenomenal, phenomenal editions. And I'm not even the edition guy. I kind of just like having comics to read, and being able to read them is the most important thing. But when it comes to these Mark Millar library editions, I'm suckered in. They are beautiful, beautiful books. Feels like you're reading something important in your hands. And I think when you're paying money for these collected editions, sometimes that does matter. And these books are beautiful. But I digress. This is a Mark Millar title. I've said before, Mark Millar's titles are being recollected in beautiful library editions over at Dark Horse. And Jupiter's Legacy is the most recent of those releases here. And Jupiter's Legacy did have a TV show on Netflix, which maybe some of you guys are thinking about while I'm speaking about this book. But the comic is so much better than the show. Don't let the show deter you. I promise to you, the comic is worth a read. There is incredible art, first off, especially during the first half where Frank Quitely is applying interiors or contributing interiors. But the fight scenes in here, the settings, the treachery, the secrets, the origins of these characters. I mean, there is so much fun, so much thought-provoking aspects, and so much thought just put into this story. This is not a what if Justice League type of book. It has that face, or that's how it presents, but when you dig deeper, it is so much more than that, and I highly recommend reading it. Do not watch the TV show. Read the comic book, because it is 1,000 million times better than whatever we got on Netflix. But these books are beautiful. The content is amazing. I love the way they're collecting it. Please check it out. And if you care about bang for your buck and you want books to look nice and feel nice, check out these Dark Horse library editions, because they are top tier. And kicking off the top 3, we have my boy Nightwing making an appearance here. We have Nightwing, the Rebirth Omnibus. We do have a cover price of $125, a release date of April 22nd, 2025, and a page count of 1,496 pages. Now, this is going to be a very large book, but man, do I love how much love Nightwing has been getting as of late. I mean, we had the Nightwing Compendium come out. We obviously had Tom Taylor's Nightwing run get a omnibus announced, and obviously that's been being collected in trade and standard size hardcovers. We have this omnibus now coming out. So Dick Grayson is getting some love, and I am here for it. This is during the Rebirth era of DC, which is a long forgotten or quickly forgotten era at DC, but it was a phenomenal era. It was where it was post New 52, where we had a ushering in of the old guard, of the old status quo. Things felt like what they were before the New 52. And one of the things that came out of this was this phenomenal run by Tim Seeley on Nightwing, where we get to see Nightwing really become his own character. And this is before Tom Taylor made it cool to like Nightwing. This is the first time that we really saw Nightwing's title firing on all cylinders. Dick Grayson being taken seriously, not living in the shadow of the Batman, and kind of standing on his own 2 feet and fighting crime as his own superhero. One of the coolest storylines is the storyline that involves Raptor in here, where you almost see a analog-ish type of version of Batman, and Dick Grayson, Nightwing, has to come to blows with him and kind of face that portion of who he is as a character and that relationship he has with Batman. And it is action-packed, tons of superhero-y goodness. This is not like your grounded and gritty type of Bat-centric run that we sometimes get. This is Nightwing as a superhero fighting crime, kicking ass, and it is phenomenal. And I'm so happy to see that he's getting yet another omnibus. And I think that New 52 omnibus, Nightwing omnibus by Kyle Higgins, is also getting a reprint. So we're eating good as Nightwing fans. But check this out. Rebirth was a phenomenal era. I recommend all of the titles during Rebirth, honestly. But Nightwing was another one that was very, very good. Fell off pretty hard closer to the end, but the ride is definitely worth the price of admission. And coming in at number 2, which honestly, this could probably be number 1. So think of this book and the next book both at number 1 if you can. But this is Justice League by Scott Snyder, the Omnibus Volume 1. Oh my goodness, I almost custom bound this. I thought this was never going to come because DC couldn't get their act together. I digress. This does have a cover price of $125, a release date of April 8th, 2025, and a page count of 776 pages. I personally feel like they probably could have fit the contents of Volume 1 and Volume 2 into one omnibus, but, DC makes those big omnibuses, but it is what it is. I'll take what I can get. But this is the most slept on Justice League run I have ever seen, I've ever experienced, and I do not know why. This run is phenomenal. So good. You have writing in here by Scott Snyder. You have art by Jim Cheung. You have art by Jorge Jimenez. You have storylines that allow every single member of the Justice League to shine, from Hawkgirl to Martian Manhunter, pretty much leading the team at some points, to obviously Superman, Batman. This has my favorite Superman scene ever collected in here, and I mean ever, historically, and my favorite Superman panel in here. This has some awesome storylines, from the Ultraviolet storyline that has a lot to do with John Stewart, who is the primary Green Lantern on this team during this era, to the Justice League of the Sixth Dimension, which is one of my favorite Justice League stories probably ever, once again. And no one has read this, and I cannot fathom why. Please read this. Please get the omnibus, or at least the 2 deluxe editions, because this story, this run, the arcs in here are so good. They are incredible, and they lead into a multitude of things that happen throughout the DC universe. So it's kind of some important puzzle pieces, not to mention just how good it is, but you have some nuggets of details that are very important to keep here, or have and read here. But man, oh man, this is a Justice League book. This is not a typical Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and side characters type of run. You get all the characters, you get all of them have time to shine, and then of course you do have the Trinity shining the most out of everybody, but you still get it as a Justice League book, and it is phenomenal. Please read it if you haven't. Get this omnibus, get the deluxe editions, trade paperbacks, whatever format you have to. This is such a slept on run. Justice League run, DC run, it doesn't matter what it is so good, and I'm so happy to see this coming out. And here we are at the #1 spot with Transformers, the Deluxe Edition, Book 1. And no, this is not just any Transformers book. This is the Daniel Warren Johnson run, or at least his portion of the run is going to be collected in here over at Image. And man, can I not wait for this. This is going to be collecting issues 1 through 12, so this collects more than the trade paperback, which is all I've collected so far and all I've read so far. But issues 1 through 5 were top tier comic book reading for me. This was such a breath of fresh air, so much fun. There was emotional moments, there was action, there was an incredible story like we've kind of never seen applied to the Transformers before, where it felt very adult focused. It didn't feel like a kid's story. It is so good. I highly recommend reading this. I don't know who hasn't at this point, unless you've been living under a rock. But this is going to collect all of Daniel Warren Johnson's stuff. And then when he leaves the book and Jorge Corona picks up on the book at that point as the illustrator. And I cannot wait to continue reading this. Daniel Warren Johnson's issues alone are meant for oversized trim, oversized format, and I think if you like Daniel Warren Johnson, you're gonna like this. This has everything that Daniel Warren Johnson is good at: his paneling, his somber and humanity, heartstring tugging moments. But it's all applied to something that is already awesome, which is the Transformers. And I'm so happy to see this getting a deluxe edition. I feel like people have been wanting this for a long time. That's why I got the trade paperbacks, because I couldn't wait any longer. And it has one of the best first issues I think I've read in a very, very long time. So check this out if somehow you haven't already. I think everybody wants this, so everybody will probably be picking it up. And you guys probably could have guessed that it was going to be my #1. Phenomenal stuff here, and definitely worthy of that #1 spot. But that does wrap up my top 10 for the month of April 2025. As always, comment down below. Let me know what your top 10 are, your top 5, your top 3, your single book that you're getting this month. I love to be told about books that I may be sleeping on. Maybe I want to go back and pick up. Maybe I need to read. Leave those comments down below. I love to hear from you guys watching. And while you're down there, if you did enjoy watching today's video, hit that thumbs up icon. And if you want to be notified anytime I put out content, you can also ring that bell for notification. And if you're not a part of the community, you can also hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to us here on the channel, and it's a little gesture on your end that means a lot to us on this side of the camera. So thank you for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And of course, as always, stay nerdy.